Hey everyone, today I'm going to be sharing with you our autism story from right from the beginning to just a couple of weeks ago, where we got a formal diagnosis for Tyler. I'm just going to invite a few people to come and watch. Okay, hey Peyton. So it's working. So Tyler was born with a condition in his. Please excuse me, I have allergies or a cold or something, so I sound a bit snuffly. I think if you know, over the past couple of days Tyler's been in hospital, which I'll explain a little bit more about afterwards, so we're still kind of recovering from no sleep. So hi Julia. Tyler, when he was a baby, we didn't know, but he was getting urine infections, and the normal kind of urine infections you would get temperature, and there's other symptoms as well, but the only way that I noticed it was that he was his wee was smelling strongly. So we had he had antibiotics for that, and then he had it again, so then he had to be referred to a paediatrician. And what they did was they did some tests. Now the first test was with a catheter, and then he had to be in x-rayed so that they could see. Hi Katie. And what they found was that he had one of the valves, which is on the tube between his bladder and his kidneys. The valve wasn't developed properly, so when he has an infection, that's going back up to his kidneys. So he'd had this test. He also had an ultrasound before that, and then there was a third test. Now this third test, he was around about 1 year old at this point, and it was a kidney function test. What they had to do is try and get a cannula in him to inject dye so that they could see his kidneys, because one of his kidneys was significantly smaller than the other one, so they thought that there may be some damage to it. Now at this hospital appointment, he'd obviously had 2 other hospital appointments, and they were quite distressing for him. So this one was more so distressing because they tried to get this cannula in about 6 times. Now he was a chunky baby, so they couldn't get it in. They didn't use cream, they didn't use the spray or anything like that they were supposed to help numb the area before they were sticking this needle in him. And I had to tell them to stop. He was getting way too distressed, and from that point on, he didn't like to go near hospitals. So as soon as he was coming near a hospital, he would have a meltdown. And we put this all down to this one incident, and from him having the other tests as well. So after that, obviously, he had his around at the same time he had his immunisations as well, and that didn't go too well either. We had no idea at this point, and that obviously some people have vaccine damage. We have no idea what it is with Tyler. We just know now that he's autistic. So we were hearing obviously all these things as well, and people were telling us that it's because he'd withdrawn into himself. He wasn't the same, and he would sit quiet, and he wouldn't like it when people came round. He would he'd not be very sociable, and so he didn't speak either. So he'd said dada, and he'd said baba and baba, but he hadn't really started to say anything else. But he just completely stopped saying anything. So we just thought at the time that, oh, he will, he'll grow out of it, he'll come out of it, and he'll be fine. It got to, he was about 2, I think. Once we'd taken his dummy off him for him sleeping, his sleep progressively got worse as he got older, and to the point where you couldn't leave him, and you still can't leave him now, although it's better because of some of the things that we've done to help him. And there was other things like he started hitting his head on the floor and on the chair, and anywhere he could, he would have meltdowns, and all these kind of over time. Eventually, when he was about 3 years old, was when we first thought of autism. And when Sophia was born, he was only 2.5, and he didn't want anything to do with her. And he didn't want anything to do with her for a long time. At first we thought that it was just, it's a new thing. We knew that he didn't like new things. We knew that he didn't like change. But he just didn't want anything. He wanted to put her back. He came to the hospital and he wanted to leave, but he wanted to leave her there. He was distressed when she came home. He would come in the room and he'd have a look over into her crib. That was as far as it got. That was quite upsetting, because you see everybody else that were having babies around about the same time, and their little brothers and their big brothers and sisters would go to the hospital and they'd be there holding them and cuddling them, and it wasn't like that for us. Now he's nearly 5. He's 5 at the end of April. He will go to Sophia and he'll give her a hug, and he'll make noises if she climbs or he thinks she's going to hurt herself. He'll tell her to get down, because he does say words now, even though he's still classed as non-verbal. But around this time last year as well, he's broken his leg because he was having a meltdown at bedtime, because bedtimes were the worst times. He would always have a meltdown and didn't want to get into bed. If we left him, like how you're kind of told to in these situations, he would just trash his bedroom. He would jump down from the windowsill, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think that maybe he just didn't know how to go to sleep, or he just has so much energy all the time. So when I think we knew before we put in a referral from it's our health visitor that did that. It took a while to say yes, let's do it. He's home educated, so there wasn't kind of the rush there, because we help him as much as we can at home with different things, with his speech and his learning. He's come a long way over the past year, like I've said, which I'll be explaining more about as we go on in the event. But that was, I mean, it wasn't last week. It was the week before that we got the formal diagnosis. The paediatrician has already told us that he would get the diagnosis because he goes into his own little world. Sometimes you can startle him out of it. He looks at his hands when he's happy. He dances around and he's very happy. He's a very happy boy. He loves music and anything like that. I think you can probably hear Sophia crying right now. But yeah, I know a lot of people, when they get the diagnosis, that's the hardest part. But for me, the hardest part was putting down on paper and talking about the things that could be wrong with my son, because I didn't see it that way. I mean, to me, the having him at the time, it was a label, I thought, and to me he didn't need that label. But I think that is quite important for people, to help them understand. They do need that label, they do need that diagnosis. But I guess I'm not sure whether it was because, not that I didn't want to come to terms with it, but I didn't think that it would change anything. It wouldn't change who he was. Like, he has the diagnosis now, and it hasn't changed him. But it might change other people. So I mean, he's not aware of danger. If you've listened to Emma's video, which is down below in the event, Tyler is, you can't keep your eyes off him. It's a 24/7. You've got to watch him. We have during the night, we have a house alarm. So if he was to get up in the night, because he has got up in the night before now and started playing with his toys, thinking it's the morning, jumping off his windowsill. At the moment, he's in our bedroom with Sophia, so that we can keep an eye on him after he had the seizures last week. We didn't know until he had these seizures that actually 1 in 3 children with autism suffer with seizures. I'm not sure, had I have known that, things would be different. But it was like about 4 o'clock in the morning, and Michael came in with him, and he said something's the matter with Tyler, and he was just all floppy. He wasn't really responding. He was just like, he would have a drink, but then he was just, his eyes were just, and his head was all floppy. It was really scary. And then we called 111. The paramedics came and they put oxygen on him. It was down quite low, to 60%, and excuse me, and I had to stay here with Sophia. I'll tell you a bit about Sophia in a minute. And so they took him to the hospital, and he had another seizure at the hospital, and it was I think it was the most scariest day of my life, because they were talking about intubating him if his oxygen didn't come up, and they'd have to send him to either Alderhay or Manchester Hospital. But as it was, I think it was about 1-2 o'clock, he did come round, and those were the longest hours of my life ever. We still don't know whether it was just a seizure, because apparently anybody can have one seizure in their life and it mean nothing. So we just have to wait now and see if he has another one. Today he should hopefully be getting the rest of the test results and having the cannula out, so he won't have to keep on going back to the hospital every day to take the antibiotics. So that can be another complication for people with children with autism. This kind of thing happens to them regularly. And with Sophia, now Sophia's non-verbal as well. She hasn't had a diagnosis. She also has lymphedema. So going through the process with her is really difficult. She is the opposite to Tyler, whereas Tyler has no fear. She's fearful. She doesn't like people touching her. They both have sensory issues which are opposite to each other. So where one's undersensitive, the other one's oversensitive too. Tyler likes touch. He likes to cuddle. Sophia will cuddle me and Michael, but she won't really go near anybody else. But she's only 2.5, so she is at the same point as what Tyler was when we thought that it was still the aftermath of his times that he'd been in for the tests in hospital. But this time we are a bit more clued up and we know a bit more, and we know what to look out for. So she's now been referred. I kind of feel bad, for I worry about the future. We take just each day as it comes. We try our best to help them concentrate. We use natural things, as you'll hear about during the event. They both have a really good diet, which is a good thing, because a lot of autistic children don't like the look of food, or the when they touch it, or when it goes in their mouth, they don't like the feel of it. Sophia's kind of going through a little bit of stage like that right now. That could be just because of our age. Tyler did exactly the same, and what we did was we just focused on food. So we just we focused on him, kept on offering him the different foods, and now he is quite good. I mean, if he doesn't want something, he'll push it away, but there's not really a lot of things that he doesn't like. He has his routines, a bit like OCD. So when we go out to places, we go out to places that he knows. So if we go to the Trafford Centre, he knows that place. But we've had to have gone there a few times first. The first few times were really difficult, and if it's busy, we can't go when it's busy. He doesn't like busy places, and neither does Sophia. So we stay in at the weekends, and we're able, with us working from home, we're able to take them out during the week. So when we come back home, Tyler has a ritual where if I'm in the car with them and we're all in the car, Michael will have to get out and open the back door. Then he'll come back, get Tyler out of his car. Tyler has to open the door for me, and then I'll take Tyler into the house. And then there's when anybody comes down the stairs. If he knows you've been out or upstairs, and he comes down the stairs, or if we go down the stairs, and open the gate and shut it without him knowing, he'll have a meltdown. He'll need to then go and sit on the stairs so you can then lift him over the stair gate. It's the same when Michael's been out in the car. There's a window where he can see. Michael will have to call me and say, I'm backing up the driveway, bring tyres to the window. So he'll go to the window and he'll see Mike backing in the car. Then he'll go and he'll open the door. But if Michael was to go out and just come back in, Tyler would have a meltdown. And what I mean is by a meltdown is the difference between a meltdown and a tantrum is a tantrum you can usually offer things and bribes to bring them out of it. Even his favourite thing will not bring him out of a meltdown. He just has to let him ride through it. He doesn't bang his head anymore on the floor or anything or objects. That stopped when we put this on. It's a power band. I'll explain more about them later in the week. But he does now hit his head himself, so he'll bang his head. And when you say no, so that's how he communicates frustration. And it's the same with the meltdowns. That's it's frustration because he doesn't understand. If things don't go a certain way, he doesn't understand why that's happened. Now, we have adapted our home so that it's as safe as it can be. We're in rented at the moment, so it's a little bit more difficult because it's difficult to find a house that is specific for needs of our kids. We have you can probably hear Tyler downstairs. So what we are doing now is the first thing that we've started to take him out, and we went to Spectrum and Me, and he did really well there. Now at Spectrum and Me, as you've probably heard Emma explain, they give a list of different things in the area. Places like soft play areas will have time set aside for children with special needs. So there seems to be a lot of that around in this area. So instead of taking him to regular home education groups, we take him to things like that and have him around children with the same needs as he does. It feels more comfortable, and it feels like people understand. It did still take a while to get used to. We've been twice now to Spectrum and Me, and you always feel like you have to apologise for your child because they're doing something, and people just don't understand. They don't understand why that child's running around and you can't control them, and they don't understand why they do certain things, whether it's that they flap or they strim or they look at their hands and different things like that. People just don't understand, so it feels more comfortable when we're around people who do understand. Excuse me. Well, I'm gonna go now, and I will be talking more about our journey throughout the event. Hopefully I won't be so bunged up, and it will go soon. And if I've missed anything, then I'll add it in later on. So thank you everybody for watching and listening to my story, and with the kids making noises in the background. Please do share. Please do continue to share all the posts from the event. There's a mega raffle with some prizes, and I will speak to you all later, where I'll be introducing my business. Okay, so have a great day everyone. Bye.